What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to Spyt-Takes episode 6. This is going to be a cool one tonight. Really looking forward to doing this episode. We had the Constantine Mid season finale. Hopefully it's not the series finale at the same time. We can only hope. We don't know. But it was freaking badass. We're going to go over it. And then, as I have time tonight, because there's only one show, no Arrow, no Flash, they are on mid-season finale right now, we will be going over some cool stuff. Maybe an intro to Sleepy Hollow, a little urban fantasy Sleepy Hollow 101. Also, like I said, I'm going to be covering a bunch of other shows, and we're going to catch you up on Sleepy Hollow tonight because it's one of my favorites. Some of the other urban fantasy shows we'll get into are Grimm and Supernatural, shows like that. But I don't have time to do those tonight, so we're just going to stick to the one. Plus, the Constantine episode was super meaty, so there's a lot of stuff that I want to go over there and talk about. So I think we might be able to even do the full hour on that, but I won't. We'll get to some Sleepy Hollow. Thank you so much to my new patrons, by the way. Mystic007, I see you in the chat right now. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. I appreciate it. You too, if you're out there and want to join the Sacred Scroll, you can see up above here on the crawl. Just go over and check out Patreon. Of course, this is going live. Don't have to be a supporter. You'll see this stuff anyway, either here live or replay on YouTube week after it airs. But obviously, every little bit helps because you can see, ooh, look, I have a green screen now. I jumped the gun and my little studio built out. Went even deeper in the hole. So I appreciate all of the Patreon pledges that I'm getting right now. No, Ace, it's not really a vlog type thing. It's a commentary show, and we're going to get right into it now and show you what it's all about. Stick around, and you'll see. It's a lot of fun. All right, so the first thing we're going to cover tonight, obviously, is going to be Constantine mid-season finale. Like I've told you all along, I was a little iffy on this show when it first started, but now I'm absolutely enamored by it, and I really hope NBC does the right thing and actually renews this and gives it the chance that it needs, gives it the time that it needs to develop and find its following, because I do think it can have one. The cast is super strong. The main actor who plays Constantine does a great job. All the supporting cast they have building around him are fantastic, and has one of the coolest sets I've seen in a long time in an urban fantasy show, which is the cabin that he has. A magical TARDIS full of all kinds of... It's like the TARDIS meets Warehouse 13 kind of thing going on here. Anyway, it's epic. It's cool. It's awesome. Let's get into the episode. Hi, Duncan. Nice to see you. Let's get into the episode right now. So in the opening, we're treated to a very cool look at this monastery somewhere in South America. And we zoom in a little further. We know we're going inside of this thing. It's actually a nunnery or a monastery. I'm not actually sure which it is. But we're going to go inside of this thing, we know. And the opening shot is absolutely beautiful. And you can see here that we realize it's going to be something to do with, angels, demons, whatever it is. The shot was just such a wonderful opening. They do this zoom in, this press in, and there's, prayer candles on the right sides here. You can see on the one side over there, the other one's behind me right here, and we see this figure, this lone figure, kind of praying with this light just kind of beaming out from behind her, and to me it looks like a nun right away, and we find out later that it actually is. Right after that, we are quickly changing over to a couple that is obviously in this monastery, and they've just had a baby. And the father is cradling the baby in his arms. The mother is recovering from childbirth. It's a very touching family scene. A nun comes in and talks to them and talks about how blessed they are, to have the child. And then that nun kind of goes back down and sees, we realize who this is that's praying here. It's another nun who bumps into the lady, kind of scares her. She has a bit of an accent. Right away, they kind of almost, because of the scare, sort of set up that there's something going on there, that this nun is scary somehow because she startles the other nun. Not in a bad way, but it was a pretty obvious, a little heavy-handed kind of like, whoop. That nun's scary. Watch out for her. And so she walks off. The other nun's going to go light a prayer candle or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, and so shortly after, this woman falls asleep, and then all of a sudden, this dark, mysterious figure comes in, and we see these taloned hands. They're very cool. It's like a thumb and 2 fingers, and it reaches for, their clawed up, balled up, and it reaches for the baby and kind of outstretches their hands like this. And then, you know, all of a sudden the woman in the bed, she stirs and the hands withdraw. This woman gets up. She screams at what she sees. And then the next few moments, the husband and the nun, the good nun, not the nun that startled you, nun, drops her prayer candle, comes rushing back toward the nursery where this woman is recovering. And she sees the husband and the father is standing over his wife. Her throat is cut. There's blood everywhere, and the baby is gone. Baby is just totally gone. All right, so what's going on here? Well, we leave this scene and we go back to the cabin where Zed is furiously drawing a bunch of images, and Constantine is there with her, and he is interested in her drawings and looking at her drawings and kind of trying to figure out what she's drawing. And so they sit down together. And he starts looking over at her drawings. And some of the ones that I thought were kind of interesting, like she draws this angel, this image of an angel. And it's really because, hey, a jizzle and Lou Dude, welcome. So he's talking to her about these drawings, and he sees that she's drawn an angel, and she draws like Noah's an ark in a flood, and this is basically her experience that she had, touching a fallen angel, touching the pastor that had the angel's feather. She's like gotten closer to God. So John, I think, a little concerned about her because, and also it's kind of like, is he concerned about her, or is he just protecting an asset of his? And it could be the latter, right? Because he really needs her. That's his whole thing with her, is he needs her. Like, she reads the map that has the blood on it and leads him to all these like hot spots of this rising darkness. So since the beginning of the show, we've been hearing about, Constantine first starts out in a mental institution and checks himself out because he wants to deal with this rising darkness that he sort of senses. And that's, something that he's very concerned about, Zed and her being able to help him track the rising darkness. And so she's drawing these very biblical heaven and hell type of images and stuff like that. And then one of them that he sees is really freaking crazy. Why is this the wrong image? No, I hate you. Hold on. Let's see if I can find this here. This Avonche image. I'm surprised that is the wrong one, to be honest with you. Let's see if this is the right one. There it is. Okay. So this image he sees, and it's called an Avonche, he says. And it's really actually an important plot thing for later. And he basically says that these are like absolutely really, really horrible entities. Super powerful, almost impossible to kill. They're just this really powerful freaking monster called an Avonche, and this is important, so we'll keep an eye on that for later. So here he is, talking to her about these drawings, and she's continuing to draw, and all of a sudden Zed sees this woman standing there in a white dress, and she's calling for Constantine, and he's basically, like, what the hell do you want? All right. He comes downstairs and he sees her, and she, Zed's like, how'd you get in here? And so Constantine's talking to her and basically saying she's not really here. So this is some kind of like magical call to him. And this woman tells him that she needs him to come down to South America because she needs his help, that there's something wrong. And, she needs him to come down. So he agrees, and she disappears, and she reappears back in the monastery, which is down south, which is where we're going to end up going. So Constantine is preparing to go down there, and he's talking to Zed about her not going, that she's going to wait here. And this is a great area. This little area right here where it's the big gear that's turned into kind of a table. It's this like central little area of the Millhouse kind of cabin, and he's always preparing here. Like whenever he's like going to go somewhere, he's putting magical artifacts in here, or even making magical artifacts. He seems to do it right here on this actual gear like table. And right now he's making a bowl, and he's carving all these symbols in it that basically turns normal water into holy water. And so he is like a master artificer, basically. This guy can whip out like anything he needs in a heartbeat. He's just sitting there like boom, and he just whips it up right here and like, okay, I'm out. I got the thing I need. We're gonna go wreck some supernatural shit. And so I thought that was really cool how he worked on that artifact and like carved it up. And the great thing about this actor is that he instills such a confidence in Constantine. Like you just really get the feeling like, you know, he knows what he's doing. Like he always is just on the spot, never really screws anything up, and you can just tell he's like really comfortable just whittling and carving this bowl to make this magical artifact. And I thought it was a very cool moment. Let's see here. What else? What's next? All right, so John goes down to South America, and I thought this was hilarious because he pulls up to this holy place. Obviously, the police are here, and they're investigating the murder of this woman and the kidnapping of the baby. And it was just hilarious to me because John Constantine is always driving around in Chaz's taxi. And it was hilarious to me to have him and Chaz show up in this little Beetle taxi with the word taxi on the side down in South America. I thought that was just absolutely hilarious that they did that. And are you guys out there? Is this chat going? Somebody type in the chat so I know that this chat is still active here. There, let me do it. Test. I don't see you guys chatting me. You must be just completely engrossed in my spiel here right now. So anyway, I thought it was absolutely hilarious and a real nice touch that they had this moment of pulling up in the taxi. In fact, I had this weird moment. What's up, Shadow? I had this weird moment that I thought maybe that Chaz's taxi was magical and was somehow like transforming, and then of course Chaz gets out of the back and he's not the driver. So and how that big ass dude fit in the back of that Beetle, I will never know. It was hilarious. So they arrive on the scene, and now they're looking for the lady that called them, and Constantine is shocked to find out that she's a nun. She actually took her vows and became a nun. And of course, she didn't show up in her habit when she magically called him, but you can see her here. And now she actually is a nun. And this really shocked him. He was absolutely shocked. And we learn why later. They have a scene just after this where they are talking about their history. And actually, they slept together before. And I think that she was really in love with him, and he hurt her really badly by the night they slept together for the first time. Like he booked out and started banging some other chicks on the side, and she saw him or followed him or something. And so she was really hurt, and she ended up, after the whole exorcism that condemned that girl's soul to hell, for which Constantine is damned, she ended up coming down here and started trying to hide in this monastery / convent. Yeah, Lou, dude, I love the show now too, and Supernatural is one of my longtime favorites, and this show has some big shoes to fill. I'm not saying Supernatural is perfect all the time, but it's been going for 13 seasons or something like that. That's huge. That's massive. So hopefully it gets its opportunity to have the torch passed to it. I agree with you, though. It's really good. It has potential to be just as good. Anyway, so we flash back to Zed. She is now back. So after that reunion with him and the nun, the girl who's now a nun, we flash back to Zed. What's up, Marcus? And she is drawing the Avanche again. She's in the cabin, and she decides that she's going to go exploring here. She sees the shadow sort of pass in front of her, and you think maybe somebody's in the cabin, but no one really is. It's just some shadow. The cabin is kind of creepy. It's magical. So she goes off to investigate and goes off exploring. And she finds a lot of stuff, which is really actually important plot stuff for later on in the show. But she goes and she finds this elevator, this like shaft that's an elevator shaft. And she's looking up it, and you see that it's a shaft. She's on the bottom floor right there. You can see when she leaves the sketch pad. And she looks up and sees this shaft, and the elevator is up there, and it goes down between the top floor and the first floor. And then she also finds this door. She starts walking through these areas, and she finds this door. And when she opens this door, guys, holy crap, it's like this door to nothingness, to absolute like oblivion. There is nothing there but this smoky mist. She almost kind of falls through, and she's shocked to see it. So now we've seen two amazing things in this cabin. The first time we saw was this hallway that goes to nowhere. And it just was this endless kind of hallway. And now there's another door in here that like links to nothingness. I'm telling you, this cabin has amazing potential. It is like literally like what the Stargate is to the Stargate series. This cabin could be to Constantine. The things that they can do in here, what they've established is this dimensional kind of, pocket. Sky's the limit. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, she explores around. She finds the elevator shaft. She finds a door to nowhere, or to oblivion or something. And that was very cool. So meanwhile, back down in South America, Constantine is doing an investigation of the nursery, and he notices this little hole down in the baseboards. And the nun says, "Oh, it's just mice." And he says, "Nope, it's not. This is how things, boogeymen type things that like to steal little babies, like to get into the rooms and do that stuff." And so he starts to cast this spell, and he puts down these cool crystals and stones, and they start beaming with light. And then before they all know it, like boom, all of a sudden these stones like burst into flame. And they just burst into flame. He has to put them out. It's a real freaky moment for them. And this is where the whole like magical roller coaster starts happening with Constantine. So they start talking about how he wishes he had a connection to the boy, something physical about the boy that was abducted. And the nun says that like, well, we do. It's tradition to bury the placenta like near the house or on the grounds or something like that. It's like it's good luck or a good omen. So they know where the placenta is buried. So they head to the family's house, and they're digging for the placenta. And all of a sudden, like, John notices this fruit on this tree, and he goes and he grabs this fruit, and the nun is like, "Is that flesh?" And he cuts into this fruit, and it starts bleeding, and all the fruit on the tree starts bleeding like out. So it's just like flesh fruit on this tree. You can see like one of them like right there, flesh fruit. He's holding one right there. It's disgusting. It's bleeding. The father comes out. He starts holding his pistol. It turns out he's a cop, right? And the nun right over here, she starts saying, nice, Duncan. She starts basically, he says, "Hey, calm down. We're here." He's like, "What are you doing? Why? What's all this weird fruit on my tree?" And he's like, so they talk. He goes in, Constantine goes into their house. He starts pouring some tequila, and they're drinking and pounding stuff down, and basically says that your son is alive. I know because the flesh is on the tree, but he's letting us know that there's some terrible, magical, dangerous magic surrounding him. And he talks about how that this tree is basically like Old Testament kind of stuff. Like this is forbidden fruit, as in like Garden of Eden. And the guy's like, "So you're telling me that my daughter or my son and my wife was killed and my son abducted by Adam or Eve? I don't buy it." And he's like, "Nope, not Eve. One of Eve's sisters." Now this was cool. So basically, Eve's sisters apparently decided that rather than serve the word of God, that they would rather reign in hell, and they became servants of hell, basically. Demons, right? And so that's very cool. Now he's just like, we got to figure out which one of these it is. I thought this was an incredibly cool moment on the show when they did the flesh fruit and did the whole thing about Eve's sisters and stuff like that. That's one of the things I love about Supernatural, is that they really tie it into, kind of, current biblical stuff. I really love when shows like Prophecy is one of my favorite films of all time, and I'm not a very dogmatic religious person, so I enjoy religion and fiction almost as more mythology. And I don't mean to offend anyone out there. I have a lot of respect for people that have faith and stuff like that. I don't mean to trounce on it. I'm just saying, for me, I really enjoy, I love Greek myth with Hercules, and I'm not saying that, angels are myth, but I'm just saying I like it when they're treated in that way in fiction. So I really enjoyed that, how they kind of are pulling this stuff in like that. So we continue on. Now Constantine goes back, more magical coolness happening here. He goes back, and this is where he starts setting up a spell to find out which of Eve's sisters this actually is. And so he goes to this fountain that's outside, and he starts putting like what looks like worms or something around from the bowl that he carved, like all around the rim, and he starts casting this spell, and you can see him casting this spell. As soon as he starts casting the spell, this freaking nun starts running out. And you know who it is. It's freaking I Startled You, nun. And she's like, you gotta leave. You gotta come in right now. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm doing something here. And she's like, no, you got to come right now. He's like, why do I get the feeling like you don't want me to come? And so he turns around, and he's just like, let me wash out my bowl. And he spins the bowl in the fountain here, and he sees her face. So basically he realizes that this is the sister of Eve. And I gotta tell you, we saw this coming a mile away. So I tried to write these down. Okay, but he says, so, I didn't quite catch your name. Was it, he starts reading off the names of Sisters of Eve. He goes, Lilith. So Lilith was on Supernatural, but she was the mother of all monsters. And Lilith is a Babylonian demon. Lilith is from Hebrew text and was a demon from Hebrew legend, ancient Hebrew demon of some kind. And then he says Narma. I don't know. I couldn't find that one. Durgia. I couldn't find that one either. Lamastru. Oh, shit. She stops at that, right? She absolutely stops at that. So it is Lamastra. And Lamashtu. And Lamashtu is an ancient Babylonian demon who actually did abduct and suck the blood out of babies. And so they actually did a neat nod here where they started taking a bunch of female demon figures, like archdemon figures, and from different religions and myths from back in the day, and they made them all Sisters of Eve. So that was really cool. And so they chose an eternity of hell over a lifetime of servitude. Dum, dum, dum. Actually, Adam proposed to each of them, and they all turned him down, and I guess Eve was his last choice. Poor Eve. She was like last choice on the list, and he got shot down. He was a desperate man by the time he got to Eve. And then she fucked him with the apple, with the forbidden fruit. Although I'm sure she did the other thing too. But anyway, let's not get into that. It's a moderately family safe show. No, it's not. Okay. Anyway, so she freaking flips out once he names her and realizes who it is, and she turns into her true self. So we get this really cool side shot of her in her full-on demonic form, and then we get this awesome front full-on shot of her. This is all happening at the fountain, and then she just freaking unleashes and attacks him. I love the way they did her teeth here, and her eyes, just kind of also sunk her eyes with the eyeshadow, but also the kind of glassiness and the cataractness of her eyes that got very pale all of a sudden. And so she freaking attacks him, and he drives her off. She flees. I don't remember how that actually happened. I think he might have splashed her with holy water from the bowl or something like that, but she books, and that was really cool moment. And so what we do here is now he's like, okay, what is going on? Something very bad is happening. So they realize that here's what happens. So now all of a sudden the father, there's another baby that gets abducted, and it's actually this woman, and it turns out, unbeknownst to this guy, the father on the left here, that his son had a baby out of with this woman, and never told him because that he doesn't like the family or something like that, some feud. And so now Constantine is on this. He's basically like, hey, you've got did you piss off a gypsy? Because somebody's gunning for your bloodline, buddy. They took your daughter, and now they took your granddaughter. Like, somebody's going for your bloodline. And so they go to this guy's grandmother, who's on the right above me here. And, hey, Aranis, this is a show about nerdy stuff, and there are spoilers here, so you should be aware. But we're talking about last week's mid-season finale of Constantine. Then we're going to get into a little Sleepy Hollow in a bit. Sleepy Hollow 1-on-1, introduce you to that cool show. I just talk about shows here that are cool that I watch, and I go through each of them with you episode by episode, give you my opinions and my reactions. So thanks for dropping by. I hope stick with us and watch it. So they start talking, and Constantine's asking questions now. These people are from Chile, apparently. And she starts freaking out, talking about this really, what is her name? The Brujeria. And it's apparently this group of ancient warlocks that have been around since prehistoric times, Constantine said. Like, basically, that doesn't mean necessarily dinosaurs. It just means prehistory, right? So they've been around forever. And they were essentially... they were essentially annihilated when, as Constantine put it, they were absolutely annihilated when God turned on the lights. And so this is like an ancient evil order of warlocks that was apparently annihilated. And this woman says, no, not annihilated. They're in hiding. In fact, her grandfather, so this guy's great-grandfather, was actually a Brujeria. And he was just evil. They love to cause people pain. And so her mother or her father ran away and took them away. So this is basically a lost bloodline of the how do you pronounce this? I forget. Brujeria. And Constantine is now freaking out. He's like, I have no spells that can stop these people. I don't know what I could possibly do. And he starts putting it together. He's like, no, there's no way they're here. They couldn't be here. We would know. And then all of a sudden he just puts it together. That's what the rising darkness is. The rising darkness he's been dealing with and kind of trying to figure out this whole time, that the angel Manny has been, helping him kind of with. It's the Brujeria. And I'm stuttering while I'm saying that because I'm not confident that I'm saying it right. Anyway, they're bad news, and Constantine is really freaked out by it. So not only did we learned some really epic things here, basically tied back to the pilot right now in the mid-season finale. It's the big bad and who they are. Now, I want to talk about something really quick here. I don't know about you guys if you know of a book series called The Dresden Files. Now, it was made into a TV show, much like Constantine, this urban fantasy, Brujeria. Thank you, Brujeria. Thank you, Lou Dude. I knew I was saying it wrong. Brujeria. So the Brujeria reminded me of something from Dresden Files. And Dresden Files is an urban fantasy series of novels by a guy named Jim Butcher. And if you like nerdy kind of stuff, if you grew up like playing D&D and you like, shows like Underworld or movies like Underworld or shows like Supernatural, you need to read these books. They're like amazing candy for nerds like you and me. And there's this one sort of faction in it called the Red Court of Vampires, and they remind me of the Brujeria and how Harry has to deal with them and the sort of epic, storyline that's involved with them. I won't spoil that for you because I would love for you to read those series. But they remind me this ancient evil magic practitioners from South America, and this Red Court vampires and how they have their tendrils and everything. And it reminded me of the Brujeria, the way they were describing it right here. And I know it's different, but it got me super excited and kind of immersed in that moment of the show. So now what are we going to do? Well, we're going to continue with some magic here. We're going to actually try and trick the sister of Eve, Lamashtu, and we are going to try and trick her into believing that there is another child with this bloodline. And actually, Constantine takes the blood from the father through transfusion and injects it into a dead chicken and pours the blood all over the chicken. And they have this plan that they're going to trick Lumashtu into thinking that the chicken is a baby of this bloodline, and she will come and get it, and they will follow her and try and track her back to the to her lair. And they're going to do that with the nun here. She's going to be the one that sort of is going to be standing vigil over this poor baby blood chicken and see if they can draw in Lumashtu. Shadow Reaper 13. It is called the Dresden Files. Dresden Files. The Dresden Files. Later, Lou Dude. Thanks for stopping by. Good seeing you. You can catch the replay of this in a week on YouTube for whatever you missed. Or you can go to Patreon and see it early access. Up to you. Either way, you can catch up on it. Anyway, so yeah, it's really awesome, dude. It's really awesome. You got to check it out. Now, meanwhile, while they're hatching this plan, back at the cabin, Zed has actually run into that guy from last week. Remember, I was like, who's this dude? And he's the life drawing guy, and he had that mysterious dude. They were trying to figure out, like, kind of capture, like, get Zed to come out with him, and clearly they had nefarious plans for her. So she senses something's up with this, and she sees him in this art supply store, and she lures him back to the cabin. You actually think that he's in control here, but it's not. She quickly turns the tables on him, and bam, she's onto him, suckers him in, relaxes, and gets his guard down. And all of a sudden, boop, she's got him tied up and restrained. And all of a sudden, these two dudes, and the one in the back there with the white jacket, there's a lady and a guy. The guy is the one we saw in the back of the car with this dude up here, the life drawing guy. So all these people are connected, and they're coming together, and they're coming to get Zed. Like, they're actually in the cabin right now. And this guy basically says something, this dude, the life drawing guy, which is basically like, our father wants to talk to us. He just wants to talk to you, Mary. And he calls Zed Mary, and she says, never call me that again. And I don't know if this is her brother. I doubt it's her brother. I think they maybe mean father in terms of father figure or like leader or something like that. But if it is an actual father, then the brother and sister here are macking down, which that's not a good thing. Don't do that, people. It's bad. And so they come into the cabin right now, and he draws a gun on her. And now this chase kind of ensues through the cabin right now. She basically is like, I will kill this dude. She holds a knife to the life drawing guy's neck and threatens to kill him if they don't leave or stand down. And this dude just, boom, blows him away and shoots him. And Zed is like, I'm so sorry. And then now the chase is on. And she's evading them. She uses the elevator to trick them into, she basically, is on the second floor when this goes down, and she runs to the elevator and then goes down to the bottom floor. And while she's on the bottom floor, she leads the woman to the door to nothing and has a fight with her in the door to nothing, and actually shoves her into oblivion. And there's definitely gravity here, right? Because the woman falls. She falls into the mist and the nothingness, screaming as she goes down. It was kind of like terrifying. And of course, Zed is then finally apprehended by this creepy guy, and who injects him with some kind of solution, and she passes out. So we don't know what happens to Zed, but we know she's in the clutches of the enemy. Now, it'd be interesting that these are probably connected to the Bruharia. And it would be interesting to know that if the reason she can see things about the rising darkness and sees these visions in Constantine is because she might, as one of you was very observant mentioned, have some kind of bloodline to the Bruharia as well. So back to South America. The trap has worked. Lamashtu has taken the baby, and Constantine and the nun follow her down to her lair, which is in some kind of sewer underneath. And they take the two babies. They free the two babies. And this is where it gets like freaking crazy, guys. I mean, like, actually really crazy. So all of a sudden Lamashtu comes back and sees that all the babies are gone, and she corners and because she realizes that the chicken is not a baby, it's just a chicken with blood in it, and she gets really pissed and throws the chicken in the water and comes back to look for the babies. She's been duped, and hopefully she got salmonella from the chicken that she was trying to steal. Anyway, so Constantine and the nun are now having this sort of face-off with Lamashtu, and Constantine wants to know what the hell is going on, and he actually starts to threaten. He's like, I know you probably need this baby for something, don't you? You need this baby for something. I will snap its neck if you don't tell me what I want to know. And he starts questioning Lamashtu, and she's reacting. She's like, oh God, don't snap the baby's neck. And the nun is freaking out. She's like, what are you doing? It's a baby. And he's like, shut up. And he's like, I'll drown this baby right here, right now, if you don't tell me what I want to know. Why are you working for the Bruharia? And she says, they will expand my domain. And he says, in hell? And she goes, no, here on earth. They figured out a way to actually break down the barrier and merge hell and earth. And she's like, you'll be the ones hiding. We will rule here. We won't hide anymore. We'll be the ones hiding. It was so freaking amazingly cool as he had this showdown with Lamashtu. And then he kills her. He has this amulet, which is basically the amulet of... All right, I tried to write this down as well. Pazuzu. And Pazuzu was apparently Lamashtu's squeeze and like a man that she was with. And he takes out the emblem of Pazuzu and he puts it in the water. He gave it to her actually to protect her, and then he asked for it back. He puts it in the water and it ignites the water with blue flame and goes over to her and lights her on fire, and then she's sort of blown back and banished into this like portal of blue flame. It was a badass effect, really well done. They didn't chintz out on it at all. This show is really well shot. The camera angles, the production value, everything is just very well done. All the editing, they never really cheese out on anything that I've seen so far. They just go full bore. They spend a lot on the effects. Hopefully not too much that they're blowing their budget and it doesn't look appealing to the suit, because we do want this show to come back. But just the framing and the camera work, the cinematographer does a really good job on this. You can see the slight tilt in the angle here in this shot with Constantine, just giving the situation a little bit of a skew in tension to it. It's very well done. So now Constantine sees something in the hall. It's not good at all. What is this thing called again? I got to look at it. All of a sudden he's looking down, he hears something, and boom, lo and behold, it's an invorce. It's that thing that Zed was drawing the whole time, which is exactly why he didn't want her to go. And here it is. Here's the invorce. And so what happens? How are they going to deal with this? Constantine is saying, we're fucked. I don't know how we're going to get away. We run, it gets us. And the nun pulls out a gun. And he's like, that's not going to kill it. And she's like, no, I know, but it will wound you and it'll be distracted and drawn to you. And earlier, Constantine was talking about we all must do what is necessary in order to win against the rising darkness. And she uses that against him here. And he's basically like, you're a quick study, love. And then she shoots him and she leaves him. And the shot draws the attention of the invention. And what is it called again? God, these names are hard. Invorce. And the Invorce here is really cool. I gave a little bit of a screenshot of it right here, but it does this cool like moving around and everything. The way it moves, and when it was in the tunnel right there, it actually jumps up on the wall, and it's a very creepy looking monster, very well done in my opinion. And that's it. She leaves him there. She leaves him there to face his doom and runs away with the baby. So that is basically oops, I still had some. Sorry, hold on. That is basically the episode, this mid-season finale for Constantine. Guys, it's off the hook. Definitely do what you can to try and let people know over at NPC how much you like this show. Tweet them. Find some hashtags that have to do with this, but definitely tweet them. Tweet the network. Tweet whoever you have to, send an email, do whatever. But if you like the show and you want to see it live, we really got to do some stuff to try and make this happen. because right now it is actually on hold. Production's on hold. It's not officially canceled yet, but production is on hold. It's very well acted, very well shot. Everything about it is top notch, and I think it's a show that's worthy of continuing, in my opinion. Sadly, they had to make a decision on it prematurely before it really had its legs and found its ratings and found its viewership, like I think by the 4th episode. But now it's like hitting its stride, and it's really opened my eyes to the potential of what the show can be. All right, so go out there, try and find a way to support it. It's really freaking awesome. All right, so we're going to do something new here. Obviously, all of our superhero shows are on hiatus. Since Constantine is a DC comic show, yes, that is true, but it is also urban fantasy. So we're going to start transitioning over into some of the awesome urban fantasy shows that I love to watch. Among those are Sleepy Hollow, Grimm, and Supernatural. These are really great shows, and I want to kind of give you guys, in the time that I have left here in Spyt-Takes tonight, a little info on Sleepy Hollow. How many of you watch this show that are in the chat right now? Let me hear you in the chat. Tell me if you watch this show or not. I'm going to wait for it to catch up here. And tell me if you haven't watched the show. Give me a count of have seen, haven't seen. And haven't seen, be prepared. I'm going to give you a 101 here. But there might be a spoiler or two. Mystic, nice. Run away. You're missing out, and we're going to show you why in a minute. Who else? Come on, let me hear you. One episode, Duncan. You got to stick with it longer than that. This show is genius. It's brilliant. One of my favorite shows on TV right now. Who else? What else? Who else is out there? Nice. Yeah, Shadow Cyborg, you got a smart family. Smart family. Make sure the apple doesn't fall too far away from the tree. You need to get on that bandwagon as well. All right, Shadow Reaper 13, we need to correct that for you. This is like a fantastic freaking show. It is unbelievably cool. And I believe on its 2nd season right now, actually. I was very happy to see it return and get renewed. So anyway, let's go into this and tell you a little bit about Sleepy Hollow. What I want to do tonight is just really, for those of you... oh, what? Aaron-ness, you got to be kidding me. Okay, we're gonna educate you on why this is brilliant. Do you watch Supernatural? Aaron-ness? Are you a Supernatural fan? Tell me. Confess to me. Talk to me, Aaron-ness. We need to figure out what's going on here with you. You gotta like this show. It's freaking awesome. And part of it is you gotta definitely probably give the show a chance to develop and understand these characters for sure. Let's see what Aaron-ness says here. Okay, if you like the snarkiness of Sam and Dean, you should be able to get into this show because it's got some amazing stuff between Abby and Ichabod. All right, so let's start. Speaking of Ichabod Crane, Tom Mison as Ichabod Crane. Tom Mison does an incredible job with this character. He is basically not the Ichabod Crane of the Disney Headless Horseman, not the Ichabod Crane of the Tim Burton, Johnny Depp version of the Headless Horseman. This Ichabod Crane is a badass motherfucker. He will fuck you up. He is a warrior. He has brains and ability. Like, he was an integral part of the Revolutionary War, and was alongside the likes of our founding fathers, Washington, General Washington, Benjamin Franklin. Like, this guy was like the shit. Ichabod Crane in this freaking show is a badass. And don't ever think otherwise. He is not the dude who runs away, oh, it's a spooky woods, and I'm going to gallop away on my horse and cringe and cower. That is not this Ichabod. He's a freaking warrior. He's a badass. That's why I like him so much. So he's resurrected somehow across time. He wakes up, and He actually is encountering this headless horseman. And he realizes who it is. He was actually involved in the Revolutionary War, and a big part of the Revolutionary War was that there was all this occult stuff going on. Much like you see with Hellboy, that comic where the Nazis were into all kinds of occult phenomenon going on, or in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Marvel Universe, the Nazis spun off Hydra, and Hydra was into all kinds of alien technology. In other words, there was supernatural stuff going on during World War II, behind the scenes that we don't know about. Think about that only with the Revolutionary War, and Ichabod was at the center of it. So he was really he knew about this evil, basically death. There was this Hessian warrior, the Headless Horseman, who was death incarnate. And actually he and Ichabod, traded blows on the battlefield and killed each other. Ichabod took the Headless Horseman's, basically took this guy's head, and in doing so was killed himself. What we learn is that their blood on the battlefield mixed together, and the Headless Horseman was actually a supernatural force. In fact, he was one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and that's what the Revolutionary War was really getting into. It was the coming of the end of days, the apocalypse. And so Ichabod goes and takes out the horseman of death. Death. And he cuts off his head. And so then the head is placed in this freaking this jar. Here it is right here, and it's creepy, it's awesome, and it's hidden somewhere. They don't find it till much later. So he's entwined with the horseman, and because he has risen, the horseman has risen as well, because when he returned to life, the horseman returned to life, or vice versa. When the horseman was raised, Ichabod was raised as well, and so they are sort of intertwined in that way, which is very cool. And so the whole first part is the horseman sort of looking for his head and then make sure that he doesn't get his head back. That's the first season for the most part. And the second season goes into more stuff, like actually getting more horsemen risen toward the apocalypse. But we'll talk about that in a second. So the way they tie in events in the Revolutionary War and figures in the Revolutionary War in this show is nothing short of brilliant, right? I'll give you an example, and we'll talk about this later on one of the subsequent Sleepy Hollow versions of Spyt-Takes. But Ben Franklin, for instance, was not just some brilliant inventor, guy and one of the founding fathers. He was actually one of the vanguards against this occult doom that was facing mankind. And his whole thing about experiment with electricity with the key on the kite, like they used the key as a kite, as a magic item that he was trying to charge, or I forget if he was trying to charge or destroy it with the electricity, but it was actually this big supernatural thing going on that we now have in our history books as him discovering electricity or something like that. No, they read between the lines and they insert all this cool stuff in this town of Sleepy Hollow that was from the Revolutionary War. It's freaking brilliant. It's just really well done. Anyway, so that's Ichabod, and Ichabod is a badass. Never forget it. Now, he is sort of paired up with this character named Abby Mills, who's played by Nicole Behaire. And she is a local cop who's being mentored by the sheriff there. And the sheriff has been mentoring her and kind of keeping her by his side for a very long time. Now, unfortunately, the sheriff, who's played by Clancy Brown, is beheaded by the Headless Horseman early on in the series. And she's about to go off to Guantanamo to become like an FBI agent. And with his death, she stays to investigate the events going on with these beheadings, these murders going on in Sleepy Hollow, and she's thrust into this supernatural world. And she and Ichabod Crane come together, and they start working together. Now, Abby is a badass too. So Ichabod is a badass who has a knowledge of the supernatural, and Abby is a badass who doesn't have any knowledge of the supernatural, but quickly discovers, about it. But she knows about the modern world and how to get stuff done. So these two start working together with, history and street smarts for today, and both of them are excellent fighters. And it turns out they're both these two key figures called the Witnesses. There are two witnesses, and it's Ichabod and Abby. And Abby has a sister, and we find out about her later. I don't want to talk about Jenny Mills yet. We'll talk about her another time. But Abby and Ichabod are great. Now, the two of them have amazing dialogue. Now, Aaron-ness, you have to give this show a chance because Ichabod is constantly making these amazing jokes and quippy remarks about modern times, the internet. They do an episode recently this season where he's gaming and he's trash talking. You don't like the dialogue between these two? It's hilarious. It is so hilarious. They have amazing moments together where he's trying to figure out like how the modern world works and is very very confused, making observations that somebody from that time would, and it's really, really funny stuff. I'll try and pull out some examples of it to give you next time we do this, but the two of them really work well together, in my opinion. I have to disagree with you there. I think as the show has gone on, and if you haven't stuck with it, then you're missing out because you got to give it another chance. Their rapport develops very well together, and even if you can't stand that, there's so much else about the show that you would appreciate. For example, the Headless Horseman. That's interesting. The Headless Horseman is billed to two people. This guy is not your average Headless Horseman. I mean, look, he's actually got a shotgun strapped to his back. He's got a freaking automatic rifle, a pistol. He's got grenades. I mean, this Headless Horseman is packing, guys. And it's weird because at some point during one of the seasons, we realize that who the Headless Horseman is, and we flash back to Ichabod's. It's better than Cisco level funny Deathstroke. Cisco is hilarious, but I think it's really Ichabod. It's not so much Abby that's funny. It's Ichabod. Ichabod is actually hilarious. The sort of very pretentious way that he reacts to the modern world, and him fighting for people's right to vote and what they do with it. It's just very, very funny stuff. And so this Headless Horseman is badass. He has an axe with it. When he wields it, it like glows with hellfire, and it can like cauterize wounds as soon as he cuts people's heads off. But he also wields a shotgun. So he's like just absolutely deadly and devastating, and he really can't be killed. We learn later that he's actually Ichabod's dear friend, Abraham van Brunt. And Abraham turns to evil after sort of Ichabod really does a number on his personal and professional life, both as an officer and as a businessman, and also sort of like steals his woman. So he turns evil, he gets his head chopped off by Ichabod, and eventually becomes the Horseman of Death before he gets his head chopped off. But once he gets his head chopped off, he's looking for it. And we find this out later. Now, the weird part is, the only thing I don't like about the Headless Horseman is that they actually started to do this thing where there was a magic mirror, and when he looked at himself in the mirror, and you could actually see him, and he wasn't all dirty and headless. You could see his face, and he talked and everything. And that's why I think they have two people billed here as the Headless Horseman. One is Jeremy Owens, and the other is Neil Jackson as Abraham Van Brunt. And the Headless Horseman guy does a really good job of emoting. What's up, Prime Nemesis? He does a really good job of emoting when he doesn't have any dialogue or anything like that. It's very well done. All right, so the fourth character I want to talk about is the driver of all of this stuff. Jeremy Owens. Whoop. I didn't actually get the actor's name down, but it's Moloch. Now, when Moloch is this demon, the guy, he's the devil, basically. And he is the one who, was really, that Abby and her sister saw when they were very young. And there's this whole prophecy of Moloch trying to get out of hell and come into our world. And there's amazing different ways in which he tries to do that all the time, which is why there's all these supernatural threats going on in Sleepy Hollow. Now, this actor... His name is Derek Mayers. And Derek Mayers plays Moloch. And when we first start seeing Moloch, you never really get a glimpse of him. You can see right above my head here, this is him in a mirror. And you can see him only in the spirit world kind of thing. And he's always blurry, kind of like the Flash when he's vibrating his face. You can never really see him. And then finally, at the end of this season, we actually start seeing what he looks like for real as he's getting closer to manifesting in our world and starting the apocalypse. And you can see him there off in this direction. So Moloch is this evil, and he is what we're trying to stop. And he is basically the one who is in charge of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and is trying to basically start the end of days. Hey, Aiden, how you doing? So this show, those are your 4 kind of primary characters in the show. There are many more, and we'll get into those, and we'll catch up on some episodes and storylines and stuff like that. But the big idea here is that dude back from the Revolutionary War trying to stop the apocalypse kills the horseman of death, chopping off his head, and dies in the process. Their blood commingles, and therefore when the horseman is risen, so is the defender Ichabod. He meets up with the other witness, a girl named Abby Mills, who saw Moloch when she was a child with her sister, and Moloch is trying to summon the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse to start the end of days. And that is the basic premise of the show. And in between, while that's all going on, there are numerous supernatural threats and monsters that come out of the woodwork, ghosts, just terrible things, all kinds of occult magic that was founded with the Freemasons that were around at that time, rich history and clues tied into actual real-life history of the Revolutionary War, and very iconic kind of moments or artifacts become key to this modern struggle against Moloch and his 4 horsemen in this town, this made-up town of Sleepy Hollow. Can't say enough good things about this show. There's a reason it keeps getting renewed and is very popular. Aaron-ness, you got to get over this dialogue thing and give it a try. You're missing out. If you like something like Supernatural and Constantine, this is a fantastic show. All these fans aren't crazy. Trust us, it's really good. All right, so that was episode 6 of Spyt-Takes, people. I want to thank you for dropping by. We're going to do some gameplay right now to follow. If you're watching this live, you give me a little bit, probably about a 10-15 minute break, and I will come back here and we'll be playing some Injustice Gods Among Us. I will continue the campaign there. Episode 6 was a lot of fun. I hope you liked kind of the new format with the new things that I'm doing. Now that I have the green screen, I got more real estate and can do more organic things with the images because I don't have this giant box of my head sticking in here. Hope you liked episode 6, mid-season finale of Constantine. Tremendous. Check out that show if you can. And also Sleepy Hollow, if you haven't seen that yet, do go watch it. It's absolutely amazing. Top-notch urban fantasy. Can't say enough about it. Thank you. Next week, we're going to be back here again. Right after Christmas, day after Christmas, we're doing another episode of Spyt-Takes. I'll let you know throughout the week what it is we're actually going to be doing. My mom's here visiting. Maybe she will actually make an appearance. We'll see. Hit me with a wooden spoon for your enjoyment. If you haven't done so already, you can see above my head here various places you can follow me. Give me a follow here on Twitch if you're not actually following already. You can catch this replay if you want to turn a friend onto it or something like that. It'll be on YouTube in a week. But also, if you want to see it right away, or if you missed any of it and want to catch it, you can go to Patreon and become a patron there, and you'll get early access to that replay. But you don't have to. Support is appreciated. Definitely helps me with the production value of the show, but it's not required. You can always see this live, or you can see it a week later on YouTube during the replay. It's appreciated, but not required. I want to make sure you all have fun here and watching the channel. I appreciate you just dropping by and being interested in at all. So thanks again. It was great seeing you guys. I'll be back in a few minutes once I get some food in my face to do some gameplay. Stay tuned. Thanks.